And it's always a pleasure to have a Papulkas on the show. Katina Papulkas, Senior Education Strategy at Dell Technologies, gets to join me on the Doralicious show for the very first time to talk about, well, what else? AI. Katina, how are ya?
I'm great, and I'm so excited to be on your show. I love it. And so it's just great that I'm able to speak on it today.
And you are the leader when it comes to AI education and technology. So tell us a little bit about your role as a senior education strategist at Dell Technologies. What does that mean? Let's start with the very, very basics.
Okay. Well, to be honest, it's a fantastic role that didn't exist 8 years ago. So it's one of those that has appeared as emerging technologies have come about. So prior to my role at Dell, I was at the Toronto District School Board for 20 plus years in a variety of roles, starting with classroom teacher all the way up to administrator at the school level, but also at the district level with teaching and learning with technology. So I've always been involved with pedagogy and technology and that intersection, just making sure that when we use technology, we're using it properly for student learning. I was seconded to TVO, which is our digital media station in Ontario. And while I was there on secondment, I was coming back to the district, and Dell Technologies said, "Would you like to apply for this role as education strategist?" And I was like, "Well, what does that involve?" And they're like, "Basically, what you make of it." And so I've been there for the last 8 years. My role is to support both K to 12 as well as post secondary institutions across the country. So I have the opportunity to visit every single province to really get involved at the district level or at the campus level of how technology is being leveraged to support student learning in the proper way. And of course, that involves professional learning for faculty, for IT, for HR, whatever it may be. And I get to do some amazing innovative projects with students, with faculty, staffs, et cetera. So it's an exciting job. It's different every day. And I still try to explain it to my father, and he still doesn't get it, because it's strategy. It's really looking to see, how do we fill these gaps in Canada? How are we preparing our students for the workforce when it's not necessarily something that we can actually say this is going to happen? So it's always looking for future forward, trying to make sure we're ahead of the curve and how technology is going to be presented in a way that is safe, but also innovative for our students and our staffs.
You know what? Like this constant change and the addition. I remember being in high school in Canada and they introduced the whiteboards, the big computer, and it was such a big thing. And
Yeah.
even at that point, there were so many teachers that did not want to use them. It's like, no, I just want to, projector style. So it's you're part of change. I think that's what you are. You're part of that change and what's coming next.
Exactly. And to be honest, I love change. I get bored easily. So this is my space that I love to be in. I love seeing what's next, what's coming down the pipe, and what can we do to help people better prepare for it. At the same time, I know change can be challenging, it can be exhausting, and we need to support everyone along their journey, whatever that might be, from they're starting at the beginning to midway. But if we want to move Canada as a country in this AI space, we all have to be rowing in the same direction.
Yeah, like I mean, we are one of the most developed countries in the world. We should be in the forefront. And I see you're quoted a lot. Like I was just reading the Globe and Mail a few days ago on the article, "Are Canadian schools prepared for AI adoption in education?" You're becoming the main source, the queen of AI in education.
Well, I don't know about that, but I'm definitely like immersed in this space. And at the same time, I want to make sure I'm an AI optimist, but at the same time, I'm always presenting a balanced approach in the sense of there are amazing, powerful opportunities that AI can bring us. But at the same time, we have to recognize the challenges that it also brings. And how do we make sure that we're balanced and smart about the risks that we're taking? So, for the betterment of our society.
Absolutely. So you talked about your dad who still doesn't understand what you do. Fair. But let's say you're at a dinner table. You have a 5-year-old and a 95-year-old. Not that your dad is 95, I'm just throwing the number. How do you explain to both? And maybe what is AI? How do you do
Yeah.
it?
I think for the little one, I would say something like, well, it's a robot inside of your computer that can do things for you. And I think that's a nice, easy way to explain it to a young child. At the same time, to a 95-year-old, I would say AI learns from your data. So instead of having to do something manual every single time, if you think about data that's been compiled about you and your neighbors and your community and your country, then it can look at that data and help you to translate languages, suggest what you might want to read or buy. It can help doctors do diagnoses way faster than if they were just trying to look at their patients each time. It can also drive cars. I'm still a little uncertain about that one, like me personally, but like there's so many opportunities here how it can change our society. So to that end, I would also make sure that people realize AI has been around a long, long time. This has actually been around since the 50s. And it's really the people who started the research around AI really wanted to see how might computers help humans with some tasks. And so when we talk about AI, and I better say this, artificial intelligence is, when I say AI, I'm meaning artificial intelligence. There's different types. So for example, if you type in something at the beginning of the day to help you get to work, you're using a GPS. That's what we call reactive AI. So you're actually inputting something into a system that's giving you an output. And then we also have predictive AI, and that's where we're leveraging data. So the best example is Netflix or one of your streamers, and they say, at the end of the show, we see you enjoyed this show, we recommend this one. They built up a data profile about you, and now they're doing that recommendation. So you've got reactive, where you're doing an input. You've got predictive, where they're looking at past data. And then you actually have generative. And that is a part of AI that's machine learning, where it's had so much data. So let's pretend we're talking about cats. So you've taught the machine about cats. You've given it tons and tons of data about cats. So eventually the machine can identify, if you put an array of pictures up, it could identify the cat. Mm-hmm. Now, when you add a certain architecture, an AI architecture to that mix, we now have the ability to create that cat. So when you put in a prompt and you say, I'd like a picture of a cat, it will then go into the data to see what is a cat, and then it will be able to create that. So it can create images, it can create text, videos, music, dashboards, all kinds of things. And that's what generative means. It can generate something. So reactive, it's where we input something like Spotify playlists, something like that. You've got the predictive, which uses your data, and that's all machine learning. Mm-hmm. And then the generative is where we actually can use that AI architecture to create something new.
And I think you answered a question, because people, when they think of AI, they only think of ChatGPT, but there's so much more out there. So I think that's a very good perspective. And sometimes I even tell my mom, AI is like me. You call me about how to find Roger's phone number. So ask ChatGPT. And I've literally have to train my mother how to use this technology to help her with tasks that she would normally call me. See, I'm making you independent, teach a man how to fish.
Beautiful. And I think that's something that we do need. I've been sharing with my parents as well about how you can leverage it. It's more powerful than Google. And it doesn't have any goals or emotions. It is a powerful pattern recognition machine. It is like a hyper fast word prediction tool. So there's no emotion behind it. There's no like little person inside there doing this. It is looking to see what you're putting in there, and it can sound thoughtful and creative, but it is not real at the other side. It is a hyper fast word prediction machine. So the other part that I always have to teach is it is not magic either, and it's not all knowing. So there are problems with it, and we have to be that. This is bringing in that balanced approach. We have these things called hallucinations, which is just really a fancy word for inaccuracy or getting it wrong. And sometimes that will happen. That word prediction machine doesn't work, something doesn't connect, and you will get incorrect misinformation. You will have something that's totally made up, but the AI that is trying to please you will actually tell you that, oh, this is the answer. So we have to engage whenever we work with AI, we have to engage our critical thinking skills and say, okay, does this make sense? And ask those clarifying questions, check other sources. Don't believe, unless you know for sure, don't believe everything that comes out of it.
And you know what? You just nailed it. Like I was just in court a few weeks ago and I had that case. I had a lawyer give me a fact, which is a legal argument with cases that are exist, but there's fake quotes. And this is what the courts have called the next generation of AI hallucinations. So the courts have adopted that same verbiage. So and it goes, is there a danger that the AI is going to take our job? Because I hear that a lot.
No, this is my opinion. Our jobs are going to change because of AI. We can do many things, having that co-pilot, that assistant to help us with our tasks. And we all have a responsibility to learn it so that we can actually become more productive and efficient with it, and which will then give us the opportunity to focus on more innovative opportunities. And if you look at job postings right now, they are looking for people who have knowledge of AI, because this is the direction that we're investing in globally, not just in Canada or the US. Globally, everybody is doing this. So if you're saying, will AI take our jobs? No, but somebody else who knows AI might. Will our jobs change? Absolutely. So if you think about when we transition from horse and buggy to a car, time of years, that that required a transition. There
Hmm.
was a transition of technology. So those people who could move and be adaptable and flexible in their thinking and have that growth mindset, they could take those skill sets of whether it was blacksmith, now you're moving into that factory element, like being able to take skills and adapt.
Yeah.
And that's something as Canadians we will have to do, because our jobs will change as we have more AI in our world.
I mean, it's natural evolution. I just say this, like think
Exactly.
of it as humans, like our teeth have evolved by just the way we use it. So it's another part of evolution. And
Yep.
you gotta survive, survival of the fittest. And it's interesting, you talked about how it's not real on the back end. I was listening to the news and there was a scientist from the science center. There's data where when they asked AI to be nicer and softer, it was 10 to 30% less accurate. So it was very interesting when
Interesting. Yep.
they trained AI to be nicer, and at that point it was 30% less accurate. And then it makes you think. I'm like, huh, goes back to critical thinking and learning and using their skill sets to say, does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think that's a responsibility, what we all have to do in this new age. So we can use these tools that are available to us to help us. And I do love that term co-pilot. I also think of it as my partner, my assistant. It helps me brainstorm, clarify, summarize, but it is still my brain,
Yeah.
my human judgment and critical thinking that's required. And at the end of the day, when I put something out, whether it's an email, a presentation, a strategic document, that reflects on me. So I have to make sure, because I'm telling you now, and you've seen it with your folks with the case laws, I receive emails with people who have it proofread, and you can definitely tell. There's nothing wrong with using AI to write an email, but when you're leaving, do you like this response? Thumbs up or thumbs down. I'm like, come on, people. We have to be professional when we're using these tools. You still need to edit. You need to go through it very carefully and make sure that you are best reflecting who you are and your professional judgment whenever you're using these tools.
I've played with AI sometimes, or like I don't remember if it was Gemini or ChatGPT, and I said, make it sound like me. Don't make it sound like a robot. And it's just interesting to see how it tries to change the writing of it. So you talked about like AI being kind of like an assistant. What's the one task that you've delegated to AI that has given you time back?
I think for me, I have a very unique job. I'm the only one in Canada that has it at Dell. So I work a lot with districts and institutions, but I do a lot of the work myself. And so you have this, sometimes you open up your computer and you're like, where do I even start? I call that the blank page work. And sometimes it's just hard to get started. So instead of like trying to, how do I'm like, this is what I'm doing with the AI. This is what I need to talk about. Work with me. Give me some ideas to start riffing on. And it's just getting started sometimes that just helps me just go, yeah, let's go after that. So helping me to get started has been probably the best thing, because sometimes I just stare at the page and I'm like, oh,
Ah,
and then I procrastinate. Now
writer's
I have,
block.
yeah. And I have found my level of procrastination has decreased because now I have this assistant that any time of day I can go to and it's like, oh, let's start on this. Let's just riff. What should I be thinking about? What's the newest? What's the latest? And so then I just need somebody to get started with. And it's like boom, 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 get it all out there. And then it's not replacing my thinking, but it's offloading some of that slower formatting, the wordsmithing. And then again, I keep working on the human parts, that judgment, the relationships, the decisions, the critical thinking that I have to be doing.
Fair. And we talked about us being responsible. So how do you guys at Dell approach this responsible AI?
So we are what we call customer zero.
Mm.
So at Dell, of course, we do technology. We're a technology company and we have Dell devices. You've probably seen Dell computers, but we also do infrastructure. So a lot of AI infrastructure. And that's something that we're very proud of that we do from end to end. So as customer zero, we have to know how to walk that talk. And so right away, they brought in different tools for us to start working on. And everybody at Dell has done continuous AI professional learning. So it's not once, it's not twice, it's continuous series of learning because we're recognizing that everything is changing so quickly. And what I learned when it first came out, it's very different than now. Of
course, yeah.
So that's why, you can go to a professional learning session for AI, but then you're going to have a knowledge of it, but you do need to keep up. And so something at Dell that I'm really proud of is they're making sure that we are up to date on things. And so that's one of the first parts of being responsible about it, because when you know about it and you're empowered, you're enabled, and you're not going to be taken advantage of by some sort of nefarious person using AI to potentially scam you, give you misinformation, disinformation, etc. So at Dell, it is really about being responsible with professional learning. And then we're expected to do that critical thinking for any outputs that we get. So, for example, I could be saying, I need to find a document. Boom, I can just ask our internal chat and it's like, gives it to me right there, saves me time. So that's the efficiency piece. But then if I'm working on certain presentations and I'm pulling in information, then I definitely am expected to use different frameworks to use my critical thinking. So for example, at Dell, we use EDIT, which is every time we get an output, we evaluate it for accuracy. We determine the sources that it's coming from. We identify bias, and we haven't spoken about that yet. Every time we're leveraging past data, there's bias involved. And then transform is the T. That's where we put it into my voice. So whenever you get something from me, it sounds like it's from Katina. It's not coming from that hyper fast word prediction tool.
Oh, my favorite is the dashes. You know those long dashes and all.
The M dashes, yeah.
So in terms of education, and I hear that a lot. My sister's in university, and I hear from my godchildren in high school. Everyone is using AI. They're cheating. They're plagiarizing. So how can AI be a teacher versus a cheating tool for our next generation of students? Because I think
Yeah,
it's a valid concern for teachers and
100%.
parents.
Yeah. That's probably the biggest thing that I've been working with educators across the country on, because when you're in education, you're always wanting to do your best for your kids. And oftentimes we might, we know the importance of being able to write and to communicate effectively with an essay.
Mhm.
So we'll ask those types of questions and we'll ask the students to do that for homework, write us an essay. Well, now they have the opportunity to go home and use these tools and write that essay in 2 seconds. That is available to them. So you can call that cheating. And I think we have to be careful here because when the tools allow us to do certain things, that's not really fair to call it cheating. We want to know what the student can do. So we know the student has to be able to prompt. We know they have to be able to understand in order to be critical of the output. So what we're trying to help teachers understand is the opportunity is there to, first of all, communicate. We have to give the students a way to use AI in a safe and ethical way that can still promote learning. So we've been using the AI assessment scale that's come out of Australia, and it basically has different levels of AI usage. So, for example, first level is no AI at all, and you'd only use that for your summative exams. And then 5 on the scale would be full exploration. So, for example, maybe you have a new tool that the district or institution has approved. With the students, let's explore what can this do, et cetera. And everybody writes what they've learned how to do, and you share, and that's excellent. In between, you help kids understand. Level 2 would be about helping you brainstorm with AI. And I do an activity where we brainstorm 10 things. So it'd be a think, pair, share. And I would ask the person beside me to brainstorm with me, and we'd share our ideas. But then we go to the AI and say, hey, do we have any additional ones that we didn't think about that we could add on to our learning? Are there ones that we don't agree with in the AI? Are there ones that have bias? So, and in this way, we're engaging with the AI, but in a more intentional and purposeful way instead of saying, do my activity. Then, in terms of that collaboration, how might you have a student write with an AI rather than just putting in that prompt, write my essay for me? First of all, another thing I do with teachers is get them to put their assessment that they would usually use into an AI. If that AI can answer it, this is no longer a valid assessment in the age of AI. So then we work on tweaking those learning activities until it can't answer, until we're making sure that what we're getting from the students is actually their thinking and their work. So it's not that kids are cheating. There are tools there that can do this work for them. So how do we adjust the assignments so we're still getting what we want from the kids? Now, the other part of it is I'm working on a huge project across the country called an AI use case project. And there's an exciting one I'm doing with one of the universities in Ontario. And what they're doing, they actually looked at the EQAO scores, which are the standardized testing scores in Ontario, grade 6 writing, and they've noticed that there's been a decline in the scores. And it's like, hey, how can AI help students become better writers? So again, it's not about typing in the prompt and saying, write me the essay. What they're doing now is researching if we give every single student an AI companion to help them, give them instant feedback on the work as they're going, will their writing improve? Because the teacher can't give that instant feedback in a class of 30 all the time, but an AI can. And so then, whether it's in a different language, whether it's, maybe somebody's at a grade 3 level, maybe somebody's at a grade 6, and then you've got a grade 9 level. So this would become that personalized learning that we would love to have, to be able to give every student. And then it's no longer cheating. We're still using these tools, but in a more productive way to actually intentionally help learning.
And also have fun while doing it at the end of
Absolutely.
like sometimes, when you get started, I write just sentences and I'm like, rewrite this sentence better. And it's just helping me put it.
You got it.
So I have some fun questions before I let you
Okay.
go. Okay. Which one is your favorite AI tool and why?
Okay. That is tough because I use a lot of different tools. So it depends on what I'm trying to do. So for images, I love Gemini right now. For infographics for podcasts and for videos, I love Notebook LM. I really love what it can do. If I'm doing some data dashboards, I love doing vibe coding in Cloud and Claude. And then if I like to write, ChatGPT. So I'm finding I like certain tools for certain roles that
Okay.
I'm asking it to do.
But if AI could do a household chore for you, which one would it be?
End-to-end laundry. It would fold, figure out the missing socks, put everything in the right drawer. And when AI can do that, yeah, we've reached the future. It's like Jetsons. So that would
You
be
know,
fun.
it's like my robot. I call her my copella. Where's my copella? I need her to go clean, and she figure out the space, where to go, and
That's
buy
so much fun.
AI videos and movies. Love it or live it.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I do love it with limits. And
Okay.
again, this is that balanced approach. So it can provide accessibility for people who would not be able to do movie making. It would allow them to learn more about the industry, be creative. So I'm a really strong proponent of that because it really does help with accessibility. At the same time, I'm also about the ethics, and we have to make sure what is done by people, where's the human in there, who are you taking from if you are scraping data from previous movies and creations, and how do we give the credit? So these are still things that we need to figure out as Canadians, how this is going to work with our copyright laws. So this is where I'm saying that balance is needed. I love the possibilities. At the same time, you don't want to take away from the people who have done the work and not give them credit.
And Katina, it was such a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us, and I look forward to reading more about you on the next Globe and Mail article.
Thank you, Dora. It's been a real treat.